So welcome back, everyone, to the second part of the series that I'm doing on about apartment developments and health. So what is this series about? It's a series of short videos on making future apartment developments healthier for people and the environment. It is directed at those involved in this, and it would be relevant especially to those involved in decision making concerning the development of future apartment buildings. And the videos provide a framework, a new approach, which together need to be with certain fundamentals, with 5 fundamentals or components that together need to be considered if we want to create healthy apartment living and apartment buildings. The examples used and the ones that I will be using for these videos sit within the context of Sydney in Australia, but equally important as lessons learned for national and international audience. So just to recap what I've already mentioned in the first video, in this slide I list the 5 fundamentals of this framework for creating healthy apartment buildings and developments. You should consider these 5 components together as these are interlinked, as you know, the framework that you can see and its shape illustrate. Importantly, this framework isn't just a checklist. It changes how you, and it aims to change the way professionals think, whether you are, say, a practitioner, a strategist, a counselor, perhaps a policymaker, a developer, etc. It changes and it aims to change how you think about planning, designing, strategizing, and doing policies concerning residential developments. You could see also here that I'm not providing a list of factors that you can typically tick in your project or your policy. I'm moving things up a level to make you shift the way that you think about creating healthier housing and healthier apartment buildings. So let's start with the first fundamental component, which is broadening the view of what influences health and well-being, as circled here in red. So as practitioners, decision makers, and researchers involved in healthy apartment living, we should broaden the view of what influences health and well-being. This implies that you need to broaden the scope of the factors that you're looking at, that you are considering, whether through policy, whether through strategy, planning, and design of apartment buildings. And there are many factors that can influence, because there are so many factors that can influence health and well-being through apartment living. And I've listed these on the slide, which came out of my research with residents. These factors, you can think of them as related to residents themselves, related to the context of where one lives. It's related to the built environment, natural environment, to society, the way society is arranged, to tenancy, the immediate surroundings, surrounding area of apartment buildings, the neighborhood or the suburb where the apartment building sits, the city where the apartment building is also related to, and also all the way even to, there are factors that are related to government itself, whether it is federal, state, or whatever tiers of government that you have, and the way that they envision, the way that they do their own processes, and the way that they act and take actions. So I'm going to give you some examples to show you why we need to broaden the scope of what we consider important to health, and to bring some of these to life to show you the diversity of what you need to be looking at. So let's take the case of one participant that I interviewed from Sydney. The participant, who I named Sandra, it's not her, her real name. She lived on the second floor of a 5-story apartment building in Sydney. in a suburb in Australia. And she was sharing at the time with a roommate. And she was a renter. And also she belonged to the age group of resident between 15 and 35. So participant Sandra considered space in the apartment and the provision of shared building services as two key factors for her showing, and that shows two main areas, which are apartment day-to-day use and building, the way building functions, and the longevity of the building as two key areas that can influence health and well-being, to give you an idea of the diversity of factors. So let's take an example and explain that further. So participant Sandra says that, I guess like space too, which definitely helps mental health, but physical health as well, because you can do some things in my living room where it is like yoga or stretching or something like that. And I guess in our complex, we've got a gym, sauna, and a swimming pool. So again, helps both aspects of mental, physical health as well. And it's just a really nice thing to have that option there if you need it. So you can see these factors from that example. After I asked this participant what does come to her mind if she thinks about healthy apartment living, you could see there are two factors here that I've listed, which are space, that came to her mind, and also provision of building services. And these highlight two areas, which are apartment day-to-day use and the building what I call building functionality and the longevity of building, as two areas that we need to consider when we are looking at, creating new buildings. Another example by Sandra, by the participant, which I quoted here, was that participant Sandra said, maybe being like close by to certain things, and the suburb that you are entering is quite important for that. So maybe being close to like all doctors or food places or gyms or things. And you can see here what the participant was trying to say is what she said was few factors that came to her mind. And these included housing location, closeness to doctors, closeness to food stores, and closeness to gyms, highlighting that the physical location of apartment buildings is a really key area that can influence health and well-being that we need to, and professionals need to worry about when it comes to creating apartment buildings. Now, also, the participants, Sandra, also talked about another area that came through the interview with her, which is quality in building and infrastructure. And I'll elaborate on this more. So what she said was, I think we went through a few places before we got this one. And that is her and her roommate. Everything about this place, like structurally, was really good, I think. And you also can't hear our neighbors. So the soundproofing, as this is really good, only if you've got, obviously, like the balcony door open, or if somebody is walking past your front door, you can kind of hear it, but it is really, really good. We never hear anything. And you could see from here, there were the participant here, she talked about, she brought few factors, which include the quality of building structure and also the adequacy of insulation from noise. And she related these to the area of, and brought up the area of quality and building and infrastructure as another area that we need to think about and account for when it comes to creating healthy apartment living. And then another example, Sandra, by participant Sandra, she also talked about the importance of the continuous presence of people to help in a building when she described in her quote, and I'll mention that, which is, I guess, a big thing would be like the lifts and how they work and how frequently and quickly they can get them to fix it. If it does break. Because I think once since we've been here, we've had an issue with it, but I was able to take the stairs, so that wasn't too much of a problem. But as soon as I came back, it was fixed and everything was done. So I know I've been to places before that hasn't happened, or maybe it hasn't been that big of a priority, or they just not been able to get people to come in as quickly. So yeah, I think Marathon, which is a housing company, a developer, has done really well with that. And there is always people around if you need help, whether it is receptionists or cleaners or something, they are going to help you there and they are happy to. So you could see here the participant here talked about and mentioned few factors, which were the frequency of lift breakdowns and the quickness of their fixing, representing three factors that speak of building management and apartment building stressors. So she brought even further areas that can influence health and well-being, which are the way the building is managed, so building management, as well as worrying and thinking about apartment building stressors. And another quote, also by the same participant. I think it would be a great opportunity if somebody did buy a block of land wanting to develop on it, to kind of just put a survey out to see what people in the area do like and what might attract more. Because I mean, in terms of they are thinking financially, that would probably give them a lot of money as well, if people are really wanting these sorts of things and is going to attract more people. So you can see here for participant Sandra, the provision of opportunities to voice opinions on apartment in regards to apartment building developments was important, and she mentioned that. And that brings up an area by her and other participants, which I named inclusivity in process and people, as something that is important to consider when you are making apartment buildings healthy. And another quote also by the same participant was that I guess the big thing is just money and how much people can afford, because I know the areas that are, I suppose, nearby would be quite a bit more expensive, I feel like, and then going on towards the city, very expensive. So I know a lot of people, I mean, particularly buying, but like renting as well, with going out west, more so socioeconomic people going further away from the city. So while you could see here while reflecting on equitable apartment buildings, the participant here considered housing affordability, especially regarding differences in socioeconomics between residents, as two influencing factors that speak of and bring up equitable housing as an area that we need to also think about when designing and planning and so forth new apartment buildings. And during this discussion, you could see she also linked the two factors with housing location, highlighting the links between equitable housing and the physical location of apartment buildings. So you could see here, you could see here from all of these examples, the diversity that the participants talked about. And finally, another example that I could also would highlight the diversity of areas that residents mentioned in my interviews was that is residents' individual needs and also place belonging. So for participant Sandra personally, her self-independence was a factor that she touched on, highlighting residents' individual needs as another key area that can influence health and well-being. While discussing self-independence, the participant also touched on space in the apartment and the type of roommates one shares with when reflecting over her feelings towards health and well-being. And so she brought these two areas together into the conversation. For my own health, it was really good to get out where I was before and come to this place, and being with my roommate now has been amazing. So I guess like a little bit more independence with it. And I mean, there is a lot of factors that have just helped like mentally, feeling healthier, being here. So yeah, independence and space and just the roommate that I'm with now, it's good, I think. So I guess the other people that you are with can affect it a lot. So you can see here she brought the factors, self-independence, space in the apartment, and the type of roommates as things that highlight the need for us to consider residents' individual needs, as well as place belonging. So in this first video, I showed you using different examples from a resident who lives in apartment buildings about why we need to broaden the view of what influences health and well-being, because there is so many areas that we need to think about. And if you need more information, I listed some key references there on the slide, which you can refer to in addition to this video, including my PhD thesis there and recent articles that I authored on the subject. Again, I'm Dr. Tamar Al-Obaidi. I have a PhD in healthy places and housing, where I examined what makes apartment buildings healthy, and my research was about asking residents themselves what influences health in relation to apartment buildings from their perspective and using their lived experiences.